I'm Rob Kircher, and welcome to our 1905 cottage restoration. This is an ongoing series of episodes with my wife Barbara and I restoring this newly purchased diamond in the rough behind me. Now, call us crazy, and we probably are, but we believe that we can turn it into an absolute showstopper. However, we also know that there are many inherent problems. There are electrical problems, plumbing problems, insulation problems, and a myriad of other problems still hidden within the walls. And trust me, folks, they're there. So stay with us as we spend time, money, and effort in transforming this beauty into an absolute incredible restoration. My wife Barb and I have restored two homes prior to our 1905 cottage. We restored a home in a little hamlet about 20 miles east of here called Pulteneyville. It's also on Lake Ontario, and that was an amazing home. It was part of the Underground Railroad. And then when we moved to Florida, we renovated and restored that home as well. But this by far, I think, is the one closest to our heart. We absolutely love it, and it's got so much character and quirkiness, if you will, that it's a blast to work on. It really is. But it definitely is not for the faint of heart. It takes a lot of work to bring this baby back to what it was in 1905. Coming up, I'll be insulating our restored shed, then cutting paneling for its walls during a heavy downpour. And folks, trust me, it was raining cats and dogs. And then I'll be applying my special paint to its walls. Next, Barb and I will be upstairs where she picked out a very cool wallpaper for our bathroom, and I'll be hanging it. All that and more is coming your way, so don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. And folks, it is most appreciated. Thank you so much. Well, get ready for a laugh. You're in my messy shed, and it's cluttered, and I mean cluttered with all kinds of tools and what have you, as you can see. And what's going on is I'm in a process of insulating it, and then I'm going to put some paneling up tomorrow. Well, here's the problem with the insulation. Our rafters and studs are 24 inches on center, and they did not have 24-inch insulation. They had only 16-inch insulation. And I also wanted to have R19, and they only had R13. Being the impatient man that I am, I bought the R13 and the 16-inch width. So it makes the insulation job much more difficult because you have to use what they call hanger supports to keep it in place until you put the paneling on. So now the difference between 13 and 19R, there is a difference, but for my shed, frankly, I think I'm okay with the R13, so I'm good with that. It's raining. It wasn't supposed to be raining, but it is. Behind me is a bit of a disaster. I've got my 4x8 tempered boards, which I'm using to line the inside of the shed with, and they don't like rain, folks, okay? So I got to quickly cut a couple more pieces and then put some plastic on top of it, and then work on the inside and call it a day for the outside cutting. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I got to get moving. Well, I love working in the rain. This is a 24-inch cut here, and I need to cut about 62 inches here, and that'll be the next piece I have to put in the ceiling. So again, it's raining, folks. My tempered board don't like it, and I got to get this thing done as quickly as possible. Talk about a drenched rat. I'm now in the comfort of my shed as it is. This is the board I was cutting outside, and you can see it's quite wet, but it will dry out and it'll be fine. It's a tempered board, but it'll work, okay? And it's fine for a shed. You don't want to go crazy on a shed. This is inexpensive board, and what I do is I surface plaster once I get it up, and then I paint it. So when it's all done, it looks pretty cool. I have my lunch that Barbara made for me with some potato chips and salami and cheese on rye. And I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to finish this portion of the ceiling, and then like I said, I'm going to surface plaster it and then paint it, and we'll be good for tomorrow, and hopefully it doesn't rain. Well, here's your morning laugh or afternoon or evening laugh for the day. Okay, so this is what the 24-inch space rafters looked like when you put 16-inch insulation in, and then you have to hold it in place with support wires. Not the ideal, believe me folks, but again, I didn't have the patience. I wanted to get this done, and all in all it's going to be fine, because once you put the paneling up, it squishes all that together and it works perfectly fine. Now the paneling, again, it's a shed, okay, and I didn't want to spend a lot of money on paneling, so I got, basically it's a hardboard. Essentially it's paper. So it doesn't like rain. I've been dealing with the rain for a couple, 2 or 3 days now, but I managed to get by that, and I managed to get it up. And the last part of this is surface plastering. And surface plastering is exactly what it sounds like. I have joint compound, and I'm going over all the imperfections, and I'm giving it a coat of plaster, if you will, over all of it, to kind of give it that old look, which is what I'm looking for. And then it's the painting. You have to put spacers behind a lot of this stuff, which I did with furring strips. And then I'm putting my shelving up at the same time, and then I'm painting it and surface plastering at the same time, so I don't have to go over things 4 or 5 times. Now I know it looks horrible, but when it's done, I think you're going to give me a pat on the back. Now the other problem is the obstacles. I'm working around all this stuff, and you might say to yourself, well, why don't you take the stuff out and then do the shed and then put the stuff back in again? Well, you know what? It's a great idea, but in practicality, it doesn't work. And the reason why it doesn't work is because it's been raining, and I don't want to put all my tools and all this stuff, and believe me, there's tons of stuff, just take a look at it, out in the rain and have to deal with that. So I'm just being stubborn and doing it the hard way, but it's my way. And like I said, when we're all done, I think it's going to look pretty styling. So I'm going to continue to show you where we are. I just did this wall, just plastered it. And again, when it's painted, it'll look like some of the stuff over here. And then I'll probably give the whole thing one more final paint when I'm all done. So anyway, that's where I am at the moment. And as I like to say, stay with me, and there's more to come. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, my wife had called because our daughter and granddaughter stopped by to take her out shopping, so they wanted to say goodbye. So anyway, back to what I'm doing. And like I said, it's a very simple process, and I want this thing to really look old, so it gives it a nice texture, because this board, this paneling, is just smooth, and I don't want smooth walls. So you keep going around like this. And the other thing, what it does, it actually seals all the joints that you have, so it just gives it a nice tight feel. And I want to eliminate any little corners that spiders and those kind of critters can get into, and then I go over it with paint. So I'll show you how I paint it, and that's coming up next, and you'll laugh when you see how I paint it, so stay tuned. Well, it's about 3 hours later. That's how long it took me to surface plaster this corner of the shed. I'm just going to kind of move the camera a little bit so you get a sense for it. There's a window here, and then in the corner, and then if I go down, you'll see I took it all the way down to the floor, and if I go up to the ceiling, you'll see that I managed to get that part of it done. And then I'm going to come around by the front or the door here and start from that corner. So that's about, I don't know, maybe 3 hours. Okay, so now here is the crazy, funny, whatever you want to call it, part of my technique. and that is I'm going to start painting this thing. Now you got to be saying to yourself, well, he just plastered it. The plaster is wet. How can he possibly be painting over wet plaster? Well, here's my weapon. This is a big brush, and the technique that I've developed, and maybe other people have used it for years, I don't know, but I use it, is the wall still has some, not some imperfections in it, but it's a little too bumpy, I guess, for me. And at the same time, I want to be able to smooth that out and then paint it. So the magic of this brush is that you're actually mixing the flat house paint that I have with plaster, and it will dry together. And you're going to end up with a smooth wall, relatively smooth wall, that is now color. And what it's going to do is going to allow you to get from A to B a lot faster. So as I do this tomorrow morning, when I come out, the walls are going to be dry, walls I just did, and I can now put all my tools and tool chests and so on back where they belong, and then move on to the last section. So that's the strategy, and it's worked so far marvelously with the rest of this shed, and that's my secret. So watch me as I start to use my big fat brush with mixed plaster and paint. Okay, so here you go, and I'm just giving the paint a little stir, but I'll start here just to show you. Okay, so this is still, again, the plaster is so wet, and I'm just applying a liberal application of paint with my plaster paintbrush. And I don't know if you can see it, you may want to be able to zoom in somehow, but what it's doing is exactly what I want it to do. It's smoothing out to a degree the plaster, and at the same time it's allowing me to put my paint color on the wall. So there you go. That's my secret. Maybe another 3 hours from now, I'll probably have this part of the shed completed. I certainly will by tomorrow morning. I'm in the upstairs bathroom, and Barbara wants me to wallpaper it. And you know what? I'm all for it. The only problem is I haven't wallpapered in years. Let me show you the paper she picked out. As you know, she's a colorist, and she has this knack of picking just phenomenal colors. Well, she did it again with this wallpaper. The gray, first of all, I love the stripes. Secondly, the gray matches not only the floor, but also matches our vanity. Wallpaper room, where do you start? Well, to me, the best place to starting is the focal point. What's the focal point? When you walk into a room, I don't care what room it is, what's the first thing your eye sees? That's the focal point. In this case, stripes have to be perfectly level and square, so when people look at it, it's not weird, okay? And then you go to the left or right. In this case, I'm going to start with the window behind me, because that's the first thing people see when they walk into the bathroom. Okay, so this is one of the difficult corners to do in this room. So you want to make sure that your joints are perfectly aligned. The last thing you want to do is overlap. People who don't know what they're doing, they overlap. And then you want to do is you work the bubbles out. I don't know if you can see this on camera, but there are bubbles behind this. It's all really important. So it's time consuming, but you have to also work fast because you're dealing with gluing glue that is drying. And now here's one here. You see, I'm getting that air bubble out. I'm squeezing the paste out. You see that? And that's a good thing. That's what you want to do. What I'm doing, I'm going up the wall. I'm getting rid of the bubbles. I'm getting rid of any excess glue that's behind there. Working my way back this way. And so on. As I go down here. And I'm getting the bubbles out. And again, it's an old wall, so this is very common. And you think you got them all out, and oftentimes you don't. So you just have to go back again. But again, and I just push everything to the corner, and then come back and I do all the cutting. So right now I want to wrap this corner. So the way I do that, I come down here and I cut an angle. Right, I cut that angle, I fold this over. See that? Sometimes your hand is the best tool you have. Now this is not going to be straight because it's an old wall, but we're going to fix that when we put the next sheet up. But right now, what we want to do, and I'll show you a trick on how to do that. So right now, we just want to get this stuff on the wall before the glue dries. And I got to cut that top the same way I cut the bottom. Right there. Very, very well. That comes down. Now fast forwarding, we're now in the second floor bathroom where the wallpapering job is complete. And as I mentioned earlier, the most important thing in wallpapering is to find that focal point of the room. And what is that again? Well, when you first enter any room, what's the first thing you see? That's the focal point. And in this case, it's this little window right here. And you saw me working around the corner here. And now when it's completed, the trick was, as I turn this corner, this is the second piece of wallpaper. So when I wrap this around, being that it's an old house, it's old walls, these stripes were not perfectly vertical. So I put another piece on top of that, and this gives you now the illusion that everything is perfectly aligned with one another. And that's the secret, particularly with this kind of striped wallpaper. So I'm going to take you around the room, and as the paste dries, if you had little bubbles, you may say, well, there's still bubbles there. Well, as the paste dries, the wallpaper actually kind of shrinks a little bit. The glue, if you will, shrinks a little bit, and when it dries, and those little bubbles just disappear. So that's one of the magics of wallpapering. So I'm just panning the camera here a little bit to give you an idea of how this section of the bathroom turned out, and the wallpapering, I think, looks very, very good here. This is the other section of wallpaper, which takes you to the old shower. That's still a project that we have to deal with. But overall, I think the wallpapering looks pretty good. What do you think? Now, as you know, this is an ongoing love affair, so who knows how long it's going to take for us to complete this thing. It could be 2 years, 3 years, but we hope you stay with us. So thank you for watching, and don't miss an episode. Well, I hope you enjoyed the episode. What's up next? Well, in episode 11, Marvelous Marvin and I will be pouring a concrete slab for our garden hose and lawn tools. And I'll be unearthing a cache of Medina stones along our driveway. Barb and I will be painting the exterior of our restored shed. Not this side with the mural, but 2 other sides that yet to be painted. And we have a special surprise coming up, but I'm not going to tell you about it because I want it to be a surprise. So you don't want to miss that one. So all that and more is coming your way. So don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. And folks, it is most appreciated. Thank you so much.